At exactly 9:17 on Saturday night, Vivian Sinclair took the housekeeper by the wrist and marched her onto the ballroom stage. 240 guests watched. Some were holding champagne. Some were laughing before Vivian had even reached the microphone because they already knew she had planned something. And some had their phones raised. Vivian loved an audience, especially when she believed she was the most important person in the room. She wore an ivory evening gown covered in hand-sewn crystals, a diamond necklace resting against her throat, and the satisfied smile of a woman who had spent 40 years learning that money could make people laugh at almost anything. Beside her stood Dana, the maid. At least, that was what everyone in the room believed. Dana was wearing the plain black uniform Vivian required her household staff to wear during formal events. No jewelry, no purse, no coat. Nothing that might make a servant look too much like a guest. Vivian raised her champagne glass. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue tonight's celebration, I thought you might enjoy meeting one of the people your generosity supposedly helps. A few guests laughed. Dana said nothing. Vivian reached behind the podium and pulled out a shiny silver serving apron. The words "Property of Sinclair House" had been embroidered across the front in black thread. The laughter became louder. "Come on," Vivian said. "Don't look so frightened." Dana wasn't frightened. But Vivian didn't know that. Vivian slipped the apron over Dana's shoulders and tied the strings behind her waist. There. She stepped back to admire her work. Much better. Several people clapped. One woman near the front covered her mouth while laughing. A man in a tuxedo whispered something to his wife, and both of them smiled. Vivian turned toward Dana. "Do you know why you're standing here tonight?" Dana looked directly at her. "You invited me." Vivian's smile tightened. "I allowed you to attend." More laughter. Dana lowered her eyes. Exactly the response Vivian wanted. "You see," Vivian continued, turning back toward the audience, "our foundation exists because women like this sometimes need people like us." She gestured toward Dana as if she were displaying an object at an auction. They arrive with nothing. No education, no connections, no sophistication. And if they're fortunate, somebody gives them a chance. Dana slowly lifted her eyes. Vivian hadn't noticed. "She should be grateful," Vivian said. The ballroom was silent enough now that Dana could hear the faint hum of the projector above them. Vivian looked down at her. "Aren't you grateful?" "Yes, ma'am." Vivian smiled again. "There, you see?" She turned toward the guests. "Manners can be taught." The room erupted. Dana waited. 1 second. 2. 3. Then she spoke. "Mrs. Sinclair." Vivian sighed dramatically. "What?" "May I say thank you?" That caught her off guard. Vivian looked at the audience. Someone shouted, "Let her speak!" Another guest laughed. Vivian's smile returned. This could be even better. She handed Dana the microphone. "Go ahead. Tell everyone how lucky you are." Dana wrapped one hand around the microphone. Her posture changed. Not dramatically, just enough. Her shoulders straightened. Her chin rose. And when she looked across the ballroom, her expression no longer belonged to the woman who had spent 8 weeks saying "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you," Dana said. Her voice was calm, clear, educated. The first few smiles disappeared. "Actually, Mrs. Sinclair, I do owe you a thank you." Vivian frowned. Dana continued. "Thank you for inviting nearly every person I needed into the same room." The ballroom became completely still. Vivian's face changed. "What did you say?" Dana looked toward the control booth at the rear of the ballroom. The massive screen behind them went black. Vivian spun around. "What's happening?" Then white numbers appeared. $18,413,220. Underneath them were 4 words. "Money not accounted for." Someone gasped. Dana untied the silver apron. She folded it once, then again, and placed it carefully on the podium. "My name is not Dana Ross." Vivian stared at her. "My name is Dana Monroe." A man near the front suddenly stopped breathing. He recognized the name. Dana looked back at Vivian. And for the last 8 weeks, I've been following the money that disappeared from the retirement accounts of the women who cooked your food, raised your children, cleaned your homes, washed your clothes, and trusted your foundation with their futures." Vivian reached for the microphone. Dana moved it away. "You don't know what you're talking about." Dana's expression didn't change. "I know exactly what I'm talking about." The screen changed again. Bank transfers. Shell companies. Payroll deductions. Luxury purchases. Property payments. A yacht lease. A private jet invoice. And hundreds of names. Women whose paychecks had been deducted every month for years. Vivian's champagne glass trembled in her hand. "Turn that off." Nobody moved. "I said turn it off." Dana looked toward the ballroom doors. "There's one more person you need to hear from." Vivian followed her gaze. The doors began to open, and when Vivian saw the woman standing on the other side, every trace of color disappeared from her face. Because Vivian Sinclair knew her, and she knew exactly why that woman was never supposed to be standing in this house again. 8 weeks earlier, Dana Monroe had entered Sinclair House carrying one suitcase and a photograph of her mother. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. 8 weeks earlier, nobody at Sinclair House had called Dana Monroe by her real name. To Vivian Sinclair, she was Dana Ross, 45 years old, recently divorced, no children, no college degree, desperate for live-in employment. That was the story printed on the application. Every detail had been built carefully. Every reference had been prepared. Every phone number led exactly where it was supposed to lead. And when Vivian interviewed her for 9 minutes in the breakfast room, she barely looked at the paperwork. She barely looked at Dana. That was the first thing Dana learned about Vivian Sinclair. Vivian noticed things, just never people she considered beneath her. "You've done domestic work before?" "Yes, ma'am." "You understand discretion?" "Yes, ma'am." "No visitors?" "Yes, ma'am." "No personal phone calls during working hours?" "Yes, ma'am." "You don't photograph anything inside my house?" "Yes, ma'am." "You don't enter private rooms without permission?" "Yes, ma'am." "And you don't become familiar with my guests?" Dana paused. Vivian noticed. "What?" "Nothing, ma'am." "Then answer." "Yes, ma'am." Vivian leaned back. She had pale gray eyes and beautifully styled blonde hair that curved beneath her jaw. Her appearance had been written about in magazines more than once. At 52, Vivian was still photographed at benefits, openings, charity luncheons, museum dinners, and fundraisers across New York. She chaired the Sinclair Foundation for Household Opportunity. Its advertisements showed smiling domestic workers wearing clean uniforms while standing beside elegant families. The slogan appeared beneath every photograph. "Dignity through work." Dana had stared at those words for months. She had seen them printed on brochures, websites, annual reports, donation envelopes, and on a photograph her mother had kept inside a kitchen drawer for almost 17 years. Dorothy Monroe had been a housekeeper most of Dana's childhood. She woke before sunrise, caught 2 buses, worked in houses larger than the apartment where she lived with her daughter, then came home and cooked dinner, as if her knees weren't aching and her fingers weren't cracked from cleaning chemicals. Dorothy never complained about work. She complained about disrespect. There was a difference. "There's no shame in cleaning somebody's house," she once told 12-year-old Dana while ironing a blouse at their kitchen table. "The shame belongs to anybody who thinks the person cleaning it matters less." Dana never forgot that. Dorothy had saved everything. Receipts, pay stubs, birthday cards, old photographs. Every important paper went into the same blue accordion folder. Years later, after Dorothy died, Dana found something inside that folder she had never seen before. A certificate from the Sinclair Foundation. Home Hands Promise Retirement Program. The certificate stated that Dorothy's employer contributions and personal payroll deductions would be invested into a matched savings account. At retirement, according to the program, Dorothy should have received more than $47,000. Dana knew immediately that something was wrong. Her mother had died with less than $1,200 in savings. Dana started digging. That was what Dana did. She followed numbers. For 18 years, she had worked as a forensic accountant. Not the glamorous kind people imagine from television. Most fraud didn't involve secret vaults or offshore islands. It involved spreadsheets, small deductions, fake vendors, repeated transactions people stopped questioning because they looked ordinary. Dana had begun in corporate compliance, then moved into nonprofit investigations. Eventually, she became Director of Financial Investigations for the Workers' Justice Center, an organization that helped low-wage employees recover stolen wages and benefits. She knew how money disappeared, and she knew that money almost never disappeared by itself. Someone moved it. Someone approved it. Someone benefited. Dorothy's account should have contained $47,280. It contained $13.82. At first, Dana assumed it was an administrative error. Then she found 6 more women. Then 21. Then 84. Every one of them had participated in the same program. Every one of them had payroll deductions documented on old pay stubs. And nearly every account was empty. The total missing money climbed past $3 million. Then 6. Then 11. By the time federal financial investigators agreed to open a coordinated case, Dana's team had identified more than 400 domestic workers, and the trail kept leading to the same place, the Sinclair Foundation. But there was a problem. On paper, everything looked clean. The foundation had excellent lawyers, excellent auditors, excellent connections. Money left worker accounts and passed through several legitimate-looking investment funds. From there, it disappeared into consulting companies, then property management firms, then private holding corporations. Investigators could prove something was wrong. They couldn't yet prove who knew. Then an envelope arrived at Dana's office. No return address. Inside was one photocopied payroll ledger, one photograph, and one handwritten sentence. Ask Vivian what happened to the women who stopped asking questions. The photograph showed Sinclair House, and standing at the back of the image was Dorothy Monroe, Dana's mother. She was 29 in the photograph, younger than Dana remembered her. Standing beside 3 other women in housekeeping uniforms. Behind them, on the terrace, stood a much younger Vivian Sinclair. Dana stared at the photograph for a long time. Her mother had never told her she had worked for the Sinclairs. Not once. That changed everything. 2 weeks later, Dana Ross applied for a housekeeping position, and Vivian Sinclair hired her. The room they gave Dana was on the 3rd floor of the service wing. It was small but clean. A narrow bed, a dresser, one window facing the back garden. Vivian didn't keep her staff in a basement. She didn't need chains. Her control looked more respectable than that. The staff signed contracts. They received paychecks. They had scheduled days off. Everything appeared proper. That was the brilliance of the system. The theft happened quietly. $20 here, $40 there. 5% of a paycheck labeled retirement contribution. Another 5% supposedly matched by the foundation. Workers believed they were building futures. Vivian built something else. On Dana's first morning, she met Lillian Brooks. Lillian was 61. She had worked inside Sinclair House for 17 years. She knew which coffee cup Vivian preferred on Tuesdays. She knew which towels belonged in which guest bathrooms. She knew the exact angle at which Vivian wanted her pillows placed. And she had the cautious expression of someone who had spent years learning how to predict another person's moods. "You're the new one?" "Yes." "Dana?" Dana nodded. Lillian looked toward the hallway. "Keep your voice down." "I wasn't speaking loudly." "Doesn't matter." Lillian handed her a stack of folded linens. "Mrs. Sinclair doesn't like staff talking unless there's a reason." A younger woman entered carrying a tray. She was 26. Her name was Nia Thompson. She had been at Sinclair House 6 months. Unlike Lillian, Nia still looked angry. Not defeated. Just angry. There was energy beneath her silence. "Don't scare her on the first day," Nia whispered. "I'm not scaring anybody," Lillian replied. "You tell everybody that." "Because everybody needs telling." Nia smiled at Dana. "Welcome to paradise." Lillian shot her a warning look. Nia disappeared into the corridor. Dana almost smiled. Almost. Then Lillian grabbed her wrist. "I'm serious." Her voice had changed. "Keep your head down. Do your work. Don't ask about money. Don't ask why your paycheck looks different from what they promised. And don't ever tell Mrs. Sinclair she made a mistake." Dana studied her. "Has that happened?" Lillian released her. "I've worked here 17 years. That doesn't answer my question. It answers more than you think." Then she walked away. Dana stood alone holding the towels. 1 hour into her first day, she had learned something no spreadsheet could have told her. The missing money wasn't the only reason people were afraid. Vivian Sinclair entered the kitchen at precisely 8:10. Everyone stopped moving. She examined the breakfast tray. "Why is the grapefruit cut this way?" Lillian looked at it. "The same way as yesterday, ma'am." "I didn't ask how it was cut yesterday." Lillian lowered her eyes. "How would you like it? If you were paying attention, I wouldn't have to explain." Vivian lifted one piece with her fork. She stared at it, then placed it back. "Throw it away." Nia took the plate. "All of it?" Vivian looked at her. Nia immediately corrected herself. "Yes, ma'am." Vivian turned toward Dana. "You." Dana stepped forward. "Yes, ma'am? Come closer." Dana did. Vivian examined her shoes. "Those won't do. They're the shoes the agency provided. They squeak." Dana hadn't noticed. Vivian had. "I don't want to hear you moving through my house." "Yes, ma'am." "Buy new ones." "Of course." "Deduct it from her wages," Vivian told Lillian. Dana looked up. Vivian caught it. "Problem?" "No, ma'am." "Good." Vivian left. The moment the kitchen door closed, Nia muttered, $98. Dana looked at her. "What?" "The shoes she makes us buy." Lillian began slicing another grapefruit. "Nia." "What?" "It's true." Nia turned toward Dana. "Special brand. Special sole. Special color. Guess who owns the company that supplies them?" Dana already suspected. "Who?" Nia gave her a tired smile. "Her sister." That evening, Dana wrote the amount in a small notebook. $98. It was the first thing Vivian took from her. It would not be the last. During the first 2 weeks, Dana learned the rhythm of Sinclair House. Vivian woke at 6:30. Coffee at 6:45. Breakfast at 7:15. Personal trainer at 8. Calls from 9 until 11. Lunch meetings 3 days a week. Foundation business every afternoon. Dinner depended on whether she was entertaining. Guests were frequent. Powerful people passed through the house constantly. Investment managers. Real estate developers. Fashion executives. Attorneys. Board members. Women who ran charities. Men whose names appeared on university buildings. And Dana noticed something immediately. Vivian became warmer whenever another wealthy person entered the room. Her voice softened. She remembered birthdays. She asked about children. She touched people's arms when they laughed. She could make a guest believe they were the only person in the world. Then the guest would leave. And Vivian would turn toward Lillian. "Why is there a fingerprint on that glass?" Same woman. Same minute. Different person. Dana understood women like Vivian. Their cruelty wasn't caused by losing control. It was how they used control. And Vivian's favorite kind was invisible. One afternoon, Dana was polishing silver in the pantry when she heard Nia arguing quietly with someone from payroll. "My check is short again." The voice on the speakerphone responded, "Your deductions are listed on your statement." "I know they're listed. I'm asking why." "Retirement contribution, uniform maintenance, staff services, transportation fund." "I don't use transportation." "It's standard." "Then stop charging me for it." "We cannot alter the package." Nia looked at Dana. Her eyes flashed. "Can I opt out of the retirement program?" "No." "Why?" "Because Mrs. Sinclair's household participates in Home Hands Promise. Enrollment is mandatory." Dana's hand stopped moving. "The same program. Still operating. After all these years." Nia ended the call. "Thieves." Dana kept polishing. You've had problems before? Every check. How much? Depends. Approximately? Nia laughed without humor. You ask a lot of questions. Dana shrugged. Trying to know what I've gotten myself into. Nia lowered her voice. They take almost $200 some months. For retirement? That's what they say. You checked the account? Nia stared at her. What account? Dana looked up. They didn't give you online access? No. A statement? No. Nia's anger faded. Should they? Before Dana could answer, Lillian entered. What are you two talking about? Nothing, Nia said quickly. Lillian looked between them. Good. She walked toward the refrigerator. Dana waited. Then asked casually, Lillian, are you in the retirement program? Lillian froze. Only for a fraction of a second. Then she continued moving. 17 years. Ever checked the balance? I get a paper every December. Dana's pulse quickened. Do you still have them? Lillian turned. Why? Dana smiled. No reason. Lillian stared at her. For the first time, Dana wondered whether the older woman was more observant than she appeared. That night, Dana transmitted her first meaningful report. The current staff were still being enrolled. The scheme wasn't historical. It was active. 2 days later, investigators confirmed that Nia's deductions had been routed through Homehand's promise into an investment administrator called Fairgrove Benefits. Fairgrove's registered address belonged to a law office in Delaware. Its listed president was a 78-year-old man living in assisted care in Arizona, who had no idea the company existed. The money moved from Fairgrove into another company, then another, and finally into a property fund called Sable Ridge Holdings. Sable Ridge owned 3 things: a condominium in Manhattan, a vacation home in Aspen, and 38% of a yacht named Serafina. All 3 were used by Vivian Sinclair. Dana stared at the report. They were closer, but still not close enough. Vivian could claim she knew nothing about how the foundation invested funds. She could blame administrators, accountants, advisors, the board. Dana needed something linking Vivian directly to the decisions. Then Lillian gave her exactly what she needed. She didn't mean to. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Vivian had gone to Manhattan. The house was quiet. Lillian was sitting at the staff table during her 15-minute break, drinking tea. Dana entered. Lillian quickly folded a piece of paper and tucked it beneath her hand. Dana pretended not to notice. You okay? Fine. You don't look fine. Lillian sighed. You remind me of my daughter. Dana sat opposite her. That good or bad? Both. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Lillian unfolded the paper. It was a retirement statement. Dana's stomach tightened. Projected balance: $126,840. Lillian touched the number. June. What happens in June? I leave. Dana looked at her. Retire? Lillian nodded. A smile appeared. It transformed her face. I haven't told Mrs. Sinclair. Why not? Because she'll make the next 7 months miserable. She laughed softly. I've been saving for 17 years. My sister and I are going to open a little place in Savannah. What kind of place? Alterations. Sewing, repairs. She can make anything. I can talk to anybody. Between us, we'll be dangerous. Dana smiled. Lillian's eyes became brighter. My granddaughter is there too. She's 9. You know what she told me? What? She said I work more hours for Mrs. Sinclair than I spend with my own family. The smile faded. She wasn't trying to hurt me. Children just say the truth. Dana looked again at the statement. $126,000. Except Dana already knew the likely reality. Lillian might have almost nothing. Have you ever called the company? Once. What happened? Mrs. Sinclair found out. Dana's eyes lifted. How? I don't know. What did she do? Lillian laughed. This time there was no humor in it. She asked if I thought 17 years of kindness deserved suspicion. Kindness? That's what she called employment. What happened after? They changed my schedule for a month, no Sundays off. Lillian folded the statement carefully. So now I wait. Dana watched her place it into her apron pocket. June. 7 months away. Lillian believed 17 years of work had purchased freedom. Dana knew she might be standing on another version of Dorothy Monroe's $13.82. That night, Dana made a request. Check Lillian Brooks. The answer arrived the following afternoon. Current verified retirement balance, $412.67. Dana read it twice. Then a third time. 17 years. $412. Someone had stolen the rest. And Lillian was upstairs ironing Vivian Sinclair's evening gown while talking excitedly about Savannah. For the first time since entering the house, Dana had to lock herself in the staff restroom. Not because she was afraid, because she was furious. She stood over the sink staring into the mirror. She saw her mother, Dorothy at 58, reading her own retirement paperwork at the kitchen table. Dorothy saying she wanted to visit Charleston. Dorothy saying she might finally replace the old couch. Dorothy dying before she discovered there was nothing waiting for her. Dana closed her eyes. This wasn't abstract anymore. It never had been. But Lillian made it immediate. There was a woman upstairs counting months to a retirement that had been stolen one paycheck at a time. Dana opened her eyes. You don't get to do this again, she whispered. The following morning, Vivian gave her the first opening. There was a foundation luncheon scheduled at the house. 20 women. All major donors. Vivian wanted everything perfect. Dana was assigned to the second-floor powder room. At 10:40, Vivian's assistant rushed upstairs. Dana! Dana appeared in the hallway. What? Mrs. Sinclair needs the blue folders from her office. Which folders? Top drawer beside her desk. 12 copies. Vivian's office. Dana kept her expression neutral. I'll get them. The office door was open. Inside, sunlight fell across a cream carpet. Photographs covered one wall. Vivian, shaking hands with governors. Vivian beside actors. Vivian accepting humanitarian awards. Vivian standing with smiling workers beneath the words, "Dignity through work." Dana crossed to the cabinet. Top drawer. Blue folders. She counted 12. Then she noticed something behind them. A black binder. No label. Dana could hear footsteps in the hallway. She didn't touch it. Not yet. She carried the folders downstairs. The luncheon began. For 2 hours, Dana served coffee while Vivian spoke about economic opportunity. Women don't need pity, Vivian told the table. They need structure. Dana placed a cup beside her. Vivian didn't look up. What we've created through Home Hands Promise gives domestic employees something they have historically lacked. A donor leaned forward. Financial literacy? Accountability. Dana's fingers tightened around the coffee pot. Vivian continued. You cannot simply hand money to people who have never been taught to manage it. Several women nodded. So we manage contributions for them. We create discipline. Another woman said, and you match the savings? Of course. Vivian smiled. Every dollar. Dana looked at the faces around the table. These women had donated millions. Some probably believed every word. Others might know more than they admitted. That was the problem with fraud surrounded by wealth. Sometimes the hardest thing to determine wasn't who participated. It was who chose not to ask. After lunch, Vivian called Dana into the dining room. She was alone. What were you doing? Dana stopped. When? During lunch. Serving coffee. You were listening. Dana forced confusion into her face. I could hear everyone. That isn't what I said. Vivian stood. You were listening. Dana lowered her eyes. I'm sorry if it seemed. Vivian stepped closer. What did you hear? Nothing important. Everything I say is important. Yes, ma'am. Vivian walked around her slowly. Dana remained still. Where did you work before this? The Harris family. Where? White Plains. For how long? 2 years. Vivian stopped in front of her. You don't sound like a housekeeper. Dana looked up. What does a housekeeper sound like? Silence. Wrong answer. Vivian's expression changed. Excuse me? Dana immediately lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, ma'am. Vivian stared at her, then smiled. It was worse than anger. There it is. What? That little bit of pride. She reached out and straightened Dana's collar. Women like you always arrive with some. Her fingers remained against the fabric. We fix that. Dana said nothing. Vivian stepped away. Tonight, you'll polish every piece of silver from the west dining cabinet. Yes, ma'am. By hand. Yes, ma'am. And Dana? Yes? Vivian smiled. If I ever catch you listening to a conversation that doesn't concern you, you won't need to worry about finding another job. Dana waited. Vivian's voice softened. You'll need to worry about whether anyone in this industry hires you again. There it was. Not a slap. Not a scream. Something more effective. Control over a person's future. Vivian understood exactly how much power reputation carried among domestic workers dependent on referrals. She didn't need to lock doors. She could close them everywhere. Dana lowered her head. Yes, ma'am. Vivian walked away. That night, Dana polished silver until 1:12 in the morning. And at 1:13, when Sinclair House was silent, she sent 4 words to the investigation team. She knows I'm watching. From that moment, the pace changed. Dana stopped believing she had months. She might have days. The next morning, Lillian approached her in the laundry room. You need to be careful. Dana folded a sheet. About what? Don't do that. Do what? Pretend you don't understand. Dana looked at her. Lillian shut the laundry room door. Mrs. Sinclair has been asking about you. What did you tell her? The truth, that you work hard. Anything else? Lillian hesitated. She asked whether you use your phone at night. Dana's heartbeat accelerated. And? I told her you sleep. Thank you. Don't thank me. Lillian stepped closer. I want to know why. Dana said nothing. Lillian's eyes narrowed. You're not here for the money. Everyone's here for money. Not like us. Dana stared at her. Lillian continued. You watch people. So do you. I watch them because I've spent 17 years avoiding trouble. You watch them like you're waiting for it. For a moment, Dana considered telling her. Then remembered the rules. Too dangerous. If Vivian discovered Lillian knew anything, Lillian would be exposed. Dana shook her head. You're imagining things. Lillian looked disappointed. Then opened the door. Maybe. She stepped into the hallway. But whatever you're doing, finish it before she finishes you. That sentence stayed with Dana. 2 days later, Dana finally got the black binder. The house was preparing for Vivian's annual Humanitarian Legacy Gala. The event was 10 days away. Florists moved through the hallways. Lighting technicians measured the ballroom. A caterer inspected the kitchen. The entire house became chaotic. And chaos creates opportunity. Vivian's assistant asked Dana to carry invitation boxes into the office. Dana entered. The black binder was still behind the blue folders. She placed the boxes on the desk. The hallway was empty. 20 seconds. Maybe 30. Dana opened the cabinet. Removed the binder. Opened it. The first page contained one word. Promise. Underneath were handwritten initials. VB, LL, GT, amounts. Dates. Transfers. Dana's breathing slowed. This wasn't the bookkeeping system. It was something else. A private record. The next pages listed employers, households, worker contributions, foundation matches, then another column. Release. Dana understood. Money collected. Money promised. Money actually released. The difference was staggering. Page after page. Thousands withheld. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. Then she found Dorothy Monroe. D. Monroe. Dana's hands stopped. Contribution total. $23,640. Promised match. $23,640. Projected distribution. $47,280. Actual release. 0. A handwritten note beside the entry. Complaint. Hold. Dana couldn't breathe. Complaint. Her mother had complained. That was why the account vanished. Not a mistake. Not sloppy management. Punishment. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Dana photographed the page. Then another. Another. She reached the final section. A list of expenditures. There was the Aspen property. The condominium. The yacht. Jewelry. Private aviation. And a payment of $380,000 toward construction of the very ballroom in which Vivian's humanitarian legacy gala would be held. Dana almost laughed. The workers had helped build the room where Vivian accepted awards for helping them. The footsteps grew louder. Dana replaced the binder, closed the drawer, picked up an invitation box. The office door opened. Vivian stood there. For half a second, neither woman moved. "What are you doing?" Dana held up the box. "Your assistant asked me to bring these." Vivian looked at the desk, then the cabinet. Then Dana. "Leave." "Yes, ma'am." Dana walked toward the door. Vivian didn't move aside immediately. They stood inches apart. Then Vivian stepped back. Dana passed her. She walked 6 steps down the hallway. "Dana." She stopped. Turned. Vivian stood in the doorway. "Tomorrow morning, I want to see your employment file." "My file?" "You heard me." "Yes, ma'am." Vivian closed the door. Dana continued walking. She didn't hurry. She didn't look back. But when she reached the service stairs, her hands were shaking. The operation was over. Whether investigators had enough or not, her cover was collapsing. She needed to get the binder evidence out. And she needed one more thing. Proof Vivian personally knew the accounts were being held in retaliation. Dana had photographed the notation, but Vivian's attorneys could argue someone else wrote it. Dana needed Vivian's voice. That opportunity came faster than expected. The following morning, Vivian summoned Lillian. Dana was cleaning the upstairs hall when she heard her name. Lillian. Vivian's office door was partly open. Lillian entered. Dana continued wiping the console table. She could hear everything. Vivian spoke first. "You're retiring?" Silence. Dana stopped. Lillian's voice was small. "Eventually. In June." "How did you know?" Vivian laughed softly. "Do you honestly think anything happens in this house without me knowing?" "I was going to tell you." "When?" "Closer to the date." "After 17 years?" "Mrs. Sinclair, I gave you 17 years. Dana's jaw tightened. Lillian answered carefully. "You paid me for 17 years of work." Silence. Dana closed her eyes. Lillian had finally said it. Vivian's chair scraped against the floor. "What did you say?" "Nothing disrespectful. You just corrected me." "No. You corrected me in my house." Lillian didn't answer. Vivian's voice became dangerously calm. "You've been talking to Dana." Dana's stomach dropped. "No. Don't lie. I'm not. She asked about your retirement account." Lillian said nothing. Vivian knew. "Somehow." "How much did you tell her?" "Nothing." "How much?" "Nothing." Lillian's voice cracked. Dana heard Vivian move closer. Then Vivian said the sentence Dana had been waiting for. "You should be very careful, Lillian. Retirement money is a privilege." Dana's heart slammed. Lillian whispered, "It's my money." "No. It's money managed for you. It comes out of my check." "And who created the program?" Lillian didn't answer. Vivian continued. "Women before you became confused about that distinction." Dana barely breathed. One woman became particularly difficult. Dorothy. Dana knew it before Vivian said anything else. "She accused us of stealing." Lillian asked, "What happened to her?" Vivian laughed. "She learned that gratitude matters." Dana's vision blurred at the edges. Lillian said, "Did you take her money?" Vivian's voice hardened. "I decided she wasn't entitled to a benefit she had spent years insulting." There it was. A confession. Not perfect, but close. Dana's recording device captured every word. Vivian continued. "Don't make Dorothy Monroe's mistake. The cloth slipped from Dana's hand. It hit the floor. Inside the office, silence. Dana bent down immediately. Too late. The door opened. Vivian stepped into the hallway. She looked at the cloth, then Dana, then back toward Lillian. "How long have you been standing there?" Dana straightened. "I just came upstairs." Vivian stared at her. Dana held her gaze for 1 second, then lowered her eyes. "Pick up the cloth." Dana did. "Go downstairs." "Yes, ma'am." Dana walked away. Behind her, Vivian said something to Lillian that Dana couldn't hear. She reached the staircase. Then Vivian called her again. "Dana." Dana stopped. "You'll be attending the gala." Dana turned. Vivian was smiling. "I will?" "Oh, yes." Vivian crossed her arms. "I've decided you deserve to see what real generosity looks like." Something in her expression warned Dana this wasn't generosity. "Thank you, ma'am." Vivian's smile widened. "You're going to be part of the presentation." That night, Dana's team told her to leave. They had enough to pursue emergency subpoenas, enough to freeze several accounts, enough to begin preparing criminal charges. But Dana asked for 48 hours. Why? Because of one name in the black binder. LL. It appeared beside dozens of transfer approvals. Dana initially assumed it referred to a financial administrator, but the initials didn't match anyone investigators had identified. And there was another problem. The anonymous envelope. Who sent it? Who knew Dorothy had worked for Vivian? Who knew enough about the scheme to point Dana toward the house? Someone inside Sinclair's world had wanted this investigation to happen. Dana wasn't leaving until she knew who. The answer arrived at 2:30 the following afternoon. Dana was changing sheets in the East guest room when Claire Sinclair entered. Vivian's daughter, 29 years old. Dark hair. Little resemblance to her mother except around the eyes. Claire lived in Brooklyn and rarely visited. When she did, Vivian treated her with a strange mixture of affection and irritation. As if loving her daughter required forgiving her for not becoming the woman Vivian had designed. Claire closed the door. Dana straightened. "Can I help you?" Claire looked toward the hallway. "You found the binder." Dana's body went still. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Claire reached into her handbag. Dana took 1 step backward. Claire removed a photograph, placed it on the bed. Dana stared. "Dorothy Monroe, the same photograph from the envelope. You sent it." Claire nodded. Dana forgot the roll. "Why?" Claire's eyes filled. "Because I found my father's files after he died." Vivian's husband, Arthur Sinclair, had died 3 years earlier. Publicly, he had been remembered as a philanthropist. His name remained on 2 hospital wings. Claire sat on the edge of the bed. "My father started Home Hands Promise." Dana said nothing. "He said it was supposed to help employees save. At first, I think it did." "You think?" "I was a child." Claire wiped her eyes. "Then the foundation started losing money. My parents didn't want donors to know. My mother began moving funds." "How long?" "Almost 20 years." Dana's stomach tightened. Claire continued. "When workers left, she delayed payments. Then she stopped releasing some of them altogether. My father objected in the beginning." "In the beginning?" "He eventually helped." "Of course." Claire looked down. "I found letters." "What letters?" "Complaints from employees." Dana knew what she was about to ask. Was Dorothy Monroe one of them? Claire nodded. Dana sat slowly. "She wrote 6 times. Do you have them?" "Yes." "Where?" "Safe." Dana struggled to keep her voice steady. "What did she say?" Claire reached back into her bag. This time she removed an envelope. Old. Creased. Dana recognized her mother's handwriting before she touched it. Dorothy Monroe. Her hands trembled. She opened the letter. "Dear Mrs. Sinclair, I am asking again for a full statement of the money being removed from my pay. I have worked honestly and I expect the same honesty in return." Dana stopped reading. For 18 years, she had investigated other people's losses. She had learned to separate emotion from evidence, but this was her mother's voice, her mother's anger, her mother's dignity. Dorothy had known. She had fought, and nobody had listened. Dana pressed her lips together. Claire whispered, "I'm sorry." Dana looked up. "Did your mother read this?" "Yes." "And?" She wrote hold across Dorothy's account. Dana closed her eyes. The word in the binder. Complaint, hold. Claire's voice broke. "I was 17. I heard them arguing about it. I didn't understand what they were doing."
"And now?"
"Now I do." Dana folded the letter carefully. "Why didn't you go directly to investigators?" "I tried. They told me I needed documents showing current activity. My mother would know if I started removing files." "So you sent them to us?" Claire nodded. "And then you put someone inside." Dana looked at her. "You knew it was me?" "Not at first." "When did you know?" "Yesterday." "How?" "Your mother's eyes." Dana almost smiled. Claire continued. "You look exactly like her when you're angry." Footsteps sounded outside. Both women froze. Claire stood. "There's something else." "What?" "The gala. My mother plans to humiliate you." "I know." "No, you don't." Claire's face tightened. "She has a presentation." Dana waited. She took photographs of staff members. Old photographs. Complaints. Stories. She plans to tell the guests how the foundation rescued difficult women. Dana felt cold. "Is my mother in it?" Claire nodded. "One slide." "What does it say?" Claire swallowed. "Ungrateful employee. Terminated for dishonesty." Dana's expression changed. Vivian wasn't merely stealing Dorothy's money. She planned to use a dead woman's name to entertain donors. Claire reached for Dana's arm. "Leave tonight." Dana looked toward the door. Then at her mother's letter. "No. Dana. No. You have what you need. Not anymore." Claire stared at her. "What are you going to do?" Dana folded the letter and placed it inside her pocket. "Attend the gala." The morning of the gala began at 5. By 6, Sinclair House was awake. By 7, the kitchen smelled like bread, coffee, and panic. 40 temporary workers arrived. Florists filled the ballroom with white roses. A lighting crew installed gold uplights around the columns. A jazz trio rehearsed on the terrace. Security guards checked entrances. Vivian moved through the house with a headset, correcting everyone. "Those chairs are too close. Move the flowers. The champagne should be colder. Why is that curtain uneven? Who approved those candles?" Nobody had. It didn't matter. Vivian needed problems because solving problems reminded everyone who was in charge. Dana worked quietly. Her operation team had wanted to move before the gala. Dana convinced them to wait until the financial freeze had been executed and the foundation's board could be informed privately. There was another reason. The gala would place almost every major donor, administrator, and board member in one room. Investigators could observe who tried to flee, who called who destroyed records, who reacted before evidence was shown, and Claire had agreed to cooperate. At 6:15, Lillian found Dana in the pantry. "You look different." Dana glanced at her uniform. "Same clothes. Not your clothes." Lillian touched her own chest. "Here." Dana looked at her. Lillian smiled sadly. "Like you're finished pretending." Dana wanted to tell her everything. She couldn't. Not yet. Instead, she asked, "What are you going to do in June?" Lillian laughed. "Savannah." "Still? Unless God himself comes down and tells me otherwise." Dana took her hands. "When you open that shop, what will you call it?" Lillian looked surprised. "My sister wants Brooks and Brooks." "I like it. You coming to get something hemmed?" "Probably. I'll charge you double." Dana smiled. Then her eyes filled. Lillian noticed. "What is wrong with you?" "Nothing. You keep saying nothing when it is obviously something." Dana squeezed her hands. "Promise me one thing." "What?" "Whatever happens tonight, don't leave the house until I find you." Lillian's smile vanished. "What is going to happen?" "Promise." "Dana, please." Lillian searched her face, then nodded. "I promise." At 7:30, the first cars appeared. The guest list looked like a page torn from a society magazine. Executives, doctors, lawyers, fashion designers, media personalities, philanthropists, people accustomed to having rooms change when they entered them. Vivian greeted them beneath a chandelier the workers' stolen retirement funds had partially paid for. She looked magnificent, and she knew it. "Welcome. Darling, you look incredible. Vivian, the room is stunning. You've outdone yourself." Every compliment fed her. Dana stood near the service entrance carrying champagne. Guests rarely looked at her face. That helped. She listened. One board member mentioned an emergency meeting scheduled for Monday. Another said the foundation's accountant had stopped returning calls. A donor complained that her bank had contacted her regarding a contribution. The financial freeze had begun. They didn't know why. Vivian did not know either. Yet, at 8:15, Vivian spotted Dana. "Come here." Dana approached. Vivian examined her uniform. "You'll change before the presentation." "Into what?" Vivian smiled. "You'll see." At 8:40, Claire arrived. She wore a simple navy dress. Vivian kissed her cheek. "You're late. Traffic. You always have an excuse." Claire said nothing. Vivian looked her over. "That's what you're wearing?" "Yes. It looks like something for a funeral." Claire glanced across the ballroom toward Dana. "Maybe it is." Vivian frowned. "What?" "Nothing." At 9, dinner plates were cleared. At 9:10, Vivian took the stage. The ballroom lights dimmed. Applause rose. Vivian stood beneath the foundation logo. "Dignity through work." 25 years ago, she began, my husband and I had a simple idea. Dana watched from the back. People thrive when given opportunity. Photographs appeared behind Vivian. Workers smiling, families laughing, children hugging nannies. Tonight we celebrate more than $20 million in programs designed to help women build independent futures. Dana almost admired the audacity. 20 million. The approximate amount missing was 18.4. Vivian continued. "Our work isn't always easy. Sometimes the people we help don't immediately understand what's best for them." The next slide appeared. An older photograph. Dorothy Monroe. Dana's lungs tightened. Underneath her mother's face were the words, "Former employee, released for financial dishonesty." A few people murmured. Vivian smiled. "Years ago, this employee accused our foundation of mishandling funds because she didn't understand how long-term investment accounts worked." Dana didn't move. "Sadly, gratitude is something no program can guarantee." Claire closed her eyes. Vivian continued. "But tonight, I'd like to show you how we handle those challenges today." She looked directly toward Dana. There she is. 240 heads turned. "Dana, come up here." Dana walked. Slowly. Across the ballroom. Past the tables. Past the donors. Past Claire. Past Lillian standing near the service door. When she reached the stage, Vivian placed one hand on her shoulder. "Everyone, meet our newest charity case." People laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Vivian reached behind the podium. The silver apron appeared. Dana let her put it on. She let Vivian explain that women like her needed structure. She let Vivian say she should be grateful. She let Vivian call manners something that could be taught. And when Vivian finished, Dana asked for the microphone. "May I say thank you?" Vivian handed it to her. Dana looked across the ballroom. This was the moment. "Thank you." She paused. "Actually, Mrs. Sinclair, I do owe you a thank you." Vivian's smile faltered. "Thank you for inviting nearly every person I needed into the same room." The screen went black. $18,413,220. Money not accounted for. Vivian's face drained. "What is this?" Dana untied the apron, folded it, placed it on the podium. "My name isn't Dana Ross." Several guests leaned forward. "My name is Dana Monroe." A board member near the front whispered the name. Dana continued. "For 18 years, I have worked in forensic financial investigations. I currently direct investigations for the Workers' Justice Center." The room erupted in whispers. Vivian stepped toward her. "You lied to me." Dana looked at her. "Yes." Vivian seemed almost offended by the concept. "You came into my home under false pretenses. I came into your home to learn what happened to money belonging to hundreds of women. You have no right, like my mother." Silence. Dana turned toward the screen. Dorothy's photograph appeared again, but the words underneath changed. Dorothy Monroe, housekeeper, mother, $47,280 withheld after questioning her account. Vivian stared. Dana's voice softened. "You called her dishonest 10 minutes ago." Nobody laughed now. "My mother worked for you." Vivian stepped backward. "She accused you of taking money from her retirement account. You told everyone she was confused." "I don't remember her." Dana looked directly at her. "Yes, you do." Another image appeared. The black binder. Dorothy's entry. "Complaint. Hold." Gasps spread across the ballroom. Vivian turned toward the control booth. "Turn this off." Nobody moved. Security. 2 security guards looked toward the rear doors. Neither moved. Dana continued. "Over the last 18 years, Home Hands Promise deducted money from the paychecks of hundreds of domestic workers. Bank records appeared. You promised to match those contributions." More records. "You told donors their money-funded retirement accounts." More records. But at least $18,413,220 was diverted. The screen showed arrows moving through companies. Fairgrove Benefits. North Shore Consulting. Sable Ridge Holdings. Then photographs. The Manhattan Condominium. The Aspen Home. The Yacht. And Sinclair House. A collective sound moved through the ballroom. Not quite a gasp. Not quite outrage. Recognition. People understood what they were seeing. Dana looked at Vivian. Part of this ballroom was renovated with money taken from employee retirement accounts. Vivian grabbed the microphone. "This is fabricated." Dana let her take it. Vivian turned toward the guests. "This woman is a fraud. She infiltrated my house. She stole documents. She has been manipulating my employees." Dana didn't interrupt. Vivian's voice rose. "You all know me." That sentence hung in the room. "You all know me." Vivian looked from table to table. "I have spent 25 years helping women." Nobody answered. "Elliot?" She looked toward the chairman of her foundation's board. Elliot Ward stood slowly. Vivian almost smiled with relief. "Tell her." Elliot looked at Vivian. Then Dana. Then back at Vivian. At 6 o'clock this evening, the board received an independent forensic report. Vivian's face changed. Elliot continued. "The figures she's showing are accurate." A murmur exploded across the room. Vivian stared at him. "No. The board voted 40 minutes ago." "For what?" "To remove you as chairwoman effective immediately." The room became silent again. Second reversal. Vivian's mouth opened. "You can't remove me from my foundation." Elliot's expression was cold. "It's not your foundation anymore." For the first time that night, applause began. Not loud. Not yet. A woman at the third table clapped once. Then another. Then several. Vivian looked around as if betrayal had physically entered the room. "You hypocrites." She pointed toward the guests. "You all benefited from this." Some faces changed. Dana noticed. So did investigators positioned around the room. Vivian had just given them something useful. She continued, furious now. "You loved the program when your staffing costs stayed down. You loved it when women stopped quitting because they thought they'd lose their savings." A man near the front whispered, "Vivian, stop." She turned on him. "Don't you dare." Dana stepped closer. "Mrs. Sinclair." Vivian spun around. "You destroyed my life." "No." Dana's voice remained quiet. "I showed people what you were doing with theirs." Vivian raised her hand. For a moment, Dana thought she might hit her. Then a voice came from the audience. "Mom!" Claire stood. Vivian froze. "Sit down." Claire didn't. "Sit down, Claire." Claire walked toward the stage. Her mother stared at her. "Don't embarrass yourself." Claire climbed the steps, then stood beside Dana. Vivian looked between them. Understanding arrived slowly. No. Claire's eyes filled. I sent the documents. Vivian's face collapsed. No. I found Dad's files. You don't know what you found. I found letters. Claire reached into her purse. Dorothy's letters. Copies of dozens of others. Women asking for statements. Women asking where their money went. Women begging you to release savings when they retired. Vivian whispered, You gave those to her? Claire nodded. Why? The question sounded almost childlike. Because they weren't yours. Vivian stared at her daughter. They would have destroyed everything. Claire's voice broke. You mean they would have exposed everything? Vivian reached for her. Claire stepped away. That movement seemed to hurt Vivian more than anything Dana had said. Claire continued. I spent years believing Dad was generous. I spent years believing you helped people. We did. No. Claire shook her head. You helped yourself. The ballroom doors opened. Everyone turned, and now they were back at the moment the story had begun with. The woman on the other side was Lillian. But she wasn't alone. Beside her stood 6 former Sinclair household employees. Behind them were attorneys, investigators, and representatives from the Financial Crimes Task Force. Lillian walked toward the stage. Vivian stared at her. What are you doing out there? Even now, Vivian spoke to her like an employee who had wandered into the wrong room. Lillian stopped. For 17 years, she had lowered her eyes when Vivian addressed her. This time she didn't. I'm listening. Vivian pointed toward the kitchen. Go back to work. Lillian looked at her. No. One word. Nothing dramatic. Nothing shouted. But Dana saw something happen to Lillian as she said it. Her shoulders straightened. Vivian blinked. What? No. Lillian stepped onto the stage. My shift is over. A few people laughed nervously. Then Lillian turned toward Dana. Dana nodded. The screen changed. Lillian Brooks, 17 years of contributions. Projected retirement, $126,840. Verified balance, $412.67. Lillian stared at the numbers. Dana watched her face. Confusion appeared first, then disbelief, then devastation. What is that? Dana's throat tightened. Lillian. What is that? Vivian tried to speak. Dana raised one hand. Lillian looked at the screen again. No. She shook her head. No. Mine is 126. Dana stepped toward her. The statement you were receiving wasn't showing the money actually held in your account. Lillian looked at Vivian. You took it? Vivian said nothing. You took my money? Lillian, you don't understand the structure. The older woman laughed. It was one broken sound. No. She wiped her face. I understand numbers. Vivian looked annoyed. This will be resolved. 17 years. Stop being dramatic. That sentence destroyed whatever sympathy remained in the room. Lillian stared at her. I missed my granddaughter growing up. Vivian looked away. I worked Christmas. Silence. Thanksgiving. Lillian's voice shook. I slept here during snowstorms because you said the house needed staff. She took one step toward Vivian. And every month you took money from me. Vivian's mouth tightened. It was invested. In your yacht? Someone in the audience gasped. Lillian pointed toward the screen. Was I saving for your yacht? Vivian didn't answer. For your apartment? Silence. For this room? Nothing. Lillian's tears continued falling. My granddaughter asked me why I was always working. Her voice cracked. I told her because one day Grandma would come home. Dana closed her eyes. Lillian looked at Vivian. You stole my one day. The ballroom erupted. Not in laughter. Applause. People stood. One table. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, most of the room was standing for Lillian. The same workers some guests had barely looked at an hour earlier were now the only people anyone could see. Vivian backed away from the sound. Her face had gone pale. And that was when the investigators approached. Not with flashing lights. Not with a dramatic convoy. They had been inside the house for almost an hour. Observing. Waiting. A woman in a charcoal suit stepped forward and identified herself. Vivian Sinclair? Vivian looked at Dana. You planned this. Dana didn't answer. Ms. Sinclair, pursuant to a federal warrant, you are being taken into custody on suspicion of wire fraud, employee benefit theft, conspiracy, tax offenses, and obstruction. Vivian laughed. It sounded unreal. This is absurd. The investigator continued. You have the right to remain silent. Vivian looked toward Elliot. He turned away. She looked toward Claire. Claire was crying but didn't move. Finally, she looked at Dana. I gave you a job. Dana met her eyes. You gave Dana Ross a job. Vivian's jaw tightened. Dana continued. My mother gave you work. Those words landed differently. Vivian looked away. The investigators placed restraints around her wrists. Camera phones rose across the ballroom. Dana hated that part. Not because Vivian didn't deserve consequences, but because spectacle was how Vivian had controlled people. Dana hadn't done any of this for a viral video. She had done it for Dorothy, for Lillian, for Nia, for hundreds of women who had opened envelopes every December and trusted the numbers printed inside. As Vivian was escorted toward the ballroom doors, she stopped beside Lillian. For 1 second, they looked at each other. 17 years. Employer, employee, power, fear. Lillian wiped her tears. Vivian said nothing. Then Lillian spoke. You should have paid me. Vivian was taken outside. The doors closed behind her. Nobody cheered. And Dana was grateful. This wasn't a victory because a wealthy woman had been humiliated. It was a victory because women who had been ignored were finally being heard. But the night wasn't over. There was still one person missing. Nia. Dana found her in the laundry room, sitting on the floor, her back against the washing machine. She had been crying. Dana sat beside her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nia laughed quietly. So, you're not divorced? Dana smiled. No. College? Yes. How much college? A lot. Nia stared at her. You could have told me. I wanted to. You let me explain payroll deductions to a forensic accountant. I needed you to trust me without putting you in danger. Nia shook her head. You're annoying. I've been told. They laughed. Then Nia became serious. Is my money gone too? Dana didn't lie. Some of it. Nia looked down. How much? We're still calculating. Can we get it back? Dana paused. The accounts were frozen tonight. Property will be pursued. Insurance claims, restitution, civil recovery. Nia looked at her. That sounded like lawyer language for maybe. Dana smiled sadly. It means we're going to fight for every dollar. Nia nodded. Then asked the question Dana had been expecting. What happens to us tomorrow? Dana looked around the laundry room. That was the question people forgot after scandals. What happens tomorrow? Headlines were loud. Tomorrow morning was quiet. People still needed somewhere to live. Food, jobs, transportation, references, health insurance, school tuition, a future. You don't work here tomorrow, Dana said. Nia frowned. I need a job. We arranged emergency payroll coverage through the Workers' Justice Center. For how long? 3 months initially. Nia stared. And after? We help you choose. That word caught her. Choose? Yes. Nia looked away quickly. Dana pretended not to notice her tears. After a moment, Nia whispered, I was in nursing school. Dana turned. What happened? My mother got sick. I dropped out. Then bills. She rubbed her hands together. I kept saying I'd go back. Do you want to? Yes. The answer came instantly. Then go back. Nia laughed. You say that like it's easy. No. Dana smiled. I say it like it's possible. Upstairs, the gala had dissolved. Guests left quickly. Some ashamed. Some angry. Some terrified their own names would appear in the records. Investigators collected statements. The foundation's attorneys arrived. Elliot Ward spoke privately with board members. Claire sat alone on the staircase. Dana found her there near midnight. Her shoes were beside her. She was barefoot. I testified against my mother. Dana sat one step below her. You told the truth. Claire laughed bitterly. That sounds nicer. Dana waited. Claire stared at her hands. She wasn't always like this. Dana didn't answer. Or maybe she was and I didn't see it. You don't have to decide that tonight. Claire looked at her. Do you hate her? Dana considered the question. No. Claire seemed surprised. I hated what she did. What's the difference? Dana looked toward the ballroom. Hatred keeps her at the center. Claire's eyes filled. I don't want her at the center of my life anymore. Then don't put her there. They sat silently. Finally, Claire said, Your mother was brave. Dana looked down. You never met her. I read her letters. Claire reached into her purse. There are more. A thick bundle. Dana took them. They were in my father's private files. Dana ran her thumb across the envelopes. Her mother's handwriting. Again. 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 6 letters. 6 times Dorothy had asked for the truth. The final one was dated 3 months before she left Sinclair House. Dana opened it. Mrs. Sinclair, I have asked respectfully. I have asked repeatedly. I am writing this final time because the money being removed from my wages belongs to me, and I will not agree to pretend otherwise. You have told me I should be grateful to work in your home. I am grateful for work. I am not grateful for disrespect. Those are not the same thing. Dana stopped. Her eyes filled. She continued reading. My daughter watches everything I do. I want her to learn that working for someone does not make you less than them. If I allow you to take what belongs to me simply because you have more power, then I will be teaching her the wrong lesson. I cannot do that. Dana pressed the letter against her chest. Claire whispered, I'm sorry she never got her money. Dana wiped her cheek. She gave me something worth more. What? Dana looked at the letter. The reason I knew not to lower my head forever. 3 weeks later, Vivian Sinclair appeared in federal court. There was no couture gown, no ballroom, no white roses, no orchestra. She wore a navy suit. Her lawyers surrounded her. The charges against her were extensive. Investigators had discovered that the retirement scheme involved more than 500 employees over 19 years. Not all of the losses were directly attributable to Vivian. Some had been caused by administrators, some by executives, some by employers who knowingly participated. The final figure exceeded $22 million. The investigation spread beyond Sinclair House. 3 executives from Fairgrove Benefits were charged. 2 foundation accountants entered cooperation agreements. A former board treasurer admitted approving false statements. And 6 wealthy households were sued after evidence showed employers had used the threat of forfeited retirement money to prevent employees from leaving. The case became national news. But Dana refused almost every television interview. She had spent years watching complicated investigations become simple entertainment. Good person, bad person, arrest, applause. Real life wasn't that clean. Lillian still woke at 5 in the morning during the first week after leaving Sinclair House. Her body didn't understand that nobody was waiting for grapefruit. She would sit on the edge of her temporary apartment bed and feel guilty for not working. Then she would remember. There was nowhere she was required to be. One morning, she called Dana at 5:18. Are you awake? I am now. Sorry. What's wrong? Nothing. Dana sat up. You called before sunrise to tell me nothing? Lillian laughed. I don't know what to do. With what? My day. Dana smiled into the darkness. That's a good problem. It doesn't feel like one. What did you used to wish you could do? Lillian thought. Drink coffee while it's hot. Start there. An hour later, Lillian sent Dana a photograph. A coffee cup. Steam rising. Caption, still hot. Dana laughed until she cried. Nia re-enrolled in nursing school. The first semester nearly broke her. Anatomy. Clinical hours. Work. Assignments. She called Dana twice saying she wanted to quit. Dana never told her not to. She simply asked the same question. Do you still want to be a nurse? Yes. Then today's difficulty doesn't get to answer for your whole life. Nia complained that Dana sounded like a motivational poster. Then she went back to class. Claire resigned from every board connected to the Sinclair name. She sold an apartment her parents had given her. A portion of the money went into the restitution fund. Some people called it performative. Others called it guilt. Claire didn't argue with either group. She knew writing a check couldn't erase what her family had done. So she stopped trying to erase it. She began working with attorneys, reviewing decades of foundation documents. Month after month, box after box. She identified names, accounts, employees, people who had been forgotten. 6 months after the gala, restitution began. The first payments were small. Then larger asset sales were approved. The yacht was sold. The Aspen property was sold. 2 investment accounts were liquidated. Insurance settlements followed. Civil judgments added more. Lillian received a call on a Wednesday afternoon. Dana was there. So was her sister, Carolyn. The 3 women sat inside a small storefront in Savannah that smelled like paint and new wood. A sign lay on the floor. Brooks & Brooks Alterations. Lillian answered the phone. She listened. Her hand moved over her mouth. Dana watched her. What? Lillian couldn't speak. Carolyn grabbed her arm. What happened? Lillian put the phone on speaker. The attorney repeated the number. Restitution. Recovered contributions. Interest. Additional settlement. Lillian sat down. $139,000. For 17 years, she had believed she was saving. For a few terrible months, she believed everything was gone. Now much of it had returned. Not because Vivian suddenly became generous. Because it had always belonged to Lillian. She cried. Carolyn cried. Dana cried. Then Lillian did something unexpected. She walked outside. Dana followed. Lillian stood beneath the new storefront sign. Traffic moved along the street. People walked past carrying groceries and coffee. Nobody knew what had just happened. Lillian looked upward. My granddaughter gets out of school in 40 minutes. Dana smiled. Go get her. Lillian laughed. I can. 3 words. Dana would remember them longer than any courtroom verdict. I can. For years, other people had decided where Lillian needed to be. Now she could simply go pick up her granddaughter. That was freedom. Not chandeliers. Not applause. Not humiliation reversed. Choice. 1 year after the gala, Dana stood outside a renovated building in Queens. A new sign had been installed over the entrance. The Dorothy Monroe Workers' Center. Dana argued against the name for 3 months. She lost. Lillian had led the campaign. You don't get a vote, she told Dana. It's my mother's name. Exactly. Inside were financial counselors. Employment attorneys. English language classes. A childcare room. Computers workers could use privately. And one office dedicated to retirement and wage account verification. Anyone could walk in. No expensive attorney. No employer permission. No shame. On opening day, Dana placed her mother's final letter in a frame. Not the photograph. Not the retirement statement. The letter. The part visible beneath the glass read, "Working for someone does not make you less than them." People stopped to read it throughout the day. Some cried. Some took photographs. One older woman touched the glass with 2 fingers and whispered something Dana couldn't hear. Nia arrived late wearing blue nursing scrubs. Dana hugged her. You're working? Clinical placement. Look at you. Don't start crying. I'm not. You are. I have allergies. Inside? Very aggressive allergies. Nia laughed. Lillian arrived next. She wore a purple dress she and Carolyn had made themselves, white stitching along the collar. Dana stared. That's beautiful. You're just saying that because I brought yours. You made me one? Lillian handed her a garment bag. Charged you double. Dana laughed. Across the room, Claire stood quietly near the back wall. For a moment, she seemed unsure whether she belonged there. Dana waved her over. Claire approached. Lillian hugged her first. Claire froze, then hugged her back. "I don't deserve that," Claire whispered. Lillian stepped away. "Probably not." Claire blinked. Lillian smiled. "But I'm doing it for me." Later that afternoon, reporters asked Dana about Vivian. The criminal case had ended 3 months earlier. Vivian Sinclair pleaded guilty after several co-defendants agreed to testify. The judge sentenced her to a lengthy federal prison term and ordered substantial restitution. A reporter asked Dana whether watching Vivian lose her wealth felt satisfying. Dana thought about the gala, the silver apron, the laughter. Her mother's photograph on the screen. Lillian discovering her account was empty. Then she thought about the cup of hot coffee, Nia's nursing scrubs, Brooks and Brooks, Claire opening boxes of old records. Her mother's letter. "No," Dana said. The reporter looked surprised. No? Her losing something wasn't the point. What was? Dana looked toward the doors of the workers' center. Giving it back. That evening, after everyone left, Dana walked through the empty building. She turned off lights, straightened chairs, picked up 2 abandoned paper cups. Old habits from Dorothy. Leave a place better than you found it. Finally, Dana entered her office. Her mother's photograph sat on the desk. Dorothy was young in it, standing behind Sinclair House, looking into the camera. Dana sat down. For years, she had wondered why her mother never told her what happened there. Now she thought she understood. Dorothy hadn't wanted Vivian Sinclair to become part of Dana's childhood. She had carried the humiliation herself. Maybe she believed she was protecting her daughter. Maybe she thought the money was lost forever. Maybe she simply wanted to move on. Dana touched the edge of the frame. "You were right," she whispered. The room was silent. Dana smiled. She imagined Dorothy at the kitchen table, ironing a blouse, telling a 12-year-old girl there was no shame in cleaning somebody else's home, only in believing the person who cleaned it mattered less. And finally, after all those years, Dana understood something else. Her mother had never been powerless. Vivian had more money, more connections, a bigger house, better attorneys. But Dorothy had refused to let Vivian decide what dignity meant. She had written 6 letters. She had asked 6 times. She had documented the truth. She had kept copies, and those copies eventually reached her daughter. Vivian Sinclair believed Dorothy's complaint had disappeared into a filing cabinet. Instead, it had traveled 18 years into the future. It had survived her. It had found Dana. And it had brought the whole house down. Dana opened the bottom drawer of her desk. Inside was the silver apron from the gala, property of Sinclair House. Investigators had returned it after processing evidence. Dana had considered throwing it away. Instead, she kept it, not as a trophy, as a reminder. People like Vivian often mistook uniforms for identities. They saw aprons, scrubs, name tags, cleaning gloves, delivery bags, and decided they already knew everything about the person wearing them. They confused service with weakness, politeness with submission, need with inferiority. They believed money gave them permission to decide who mattered. Vivian made that mistake with Dorothy, then Lillian, then Nia, then Dana. And on the night she gathered 240 people inside a ballroom to teach a maid her place, Vivian finally learned something her own foundation had printed on brochures for 25 years without ever understanding. Dignity does not come from the person signing your paycheck. It doesn't come from a mansion, an invitation, a diamond necklace, or a seat at somebody else's table. And nobody can make themselves taller by forcing another person to kneel. Dana picked up the apron, folded it, placed it beside her mother's letter, then closed the drawer. Outside her office window, the lights of Queens stretched across the evening. Somewhere in Savannah, Lillian was probably closing her shop and arguing with Carolyn about whose turn it was to sweep. Somewhere in a hospital, Nia was checking a patient's chart. Somewhere in Brooklyn, Claire was learning how to build a life that didn't depend on defending her family's name. And somewhere inside a federal prison, Vivian Sinclair had plenty of time to think about the night she invited a woman she believed was beneath her onto a stage. She had meant to humiliate Dana. Instead, she handed her a microphone. And sometimes, that's all the truth needs. A microphone, an audience, and one person who refuses to stay silent. So if you've ever been underestimated because of the job you had, the clothes you wore, where you came from, how much money you had, or because someone simply decided they were better than you, remember Dorothy Monroe. Remember Lillian. Remember Nia. Remember Nia. And remember the maid Vivian Sinclair invited to the gala because she thought humiliation would make her feel powerful. Because the most dangerous mistake an arrogant person can make is assuming that someone who serves them cannot see them clearly. Dana saw everything. She saw the numbers. She saw the fear. She saw the lies. She saw the women behind the statistics. And most importantly, she remembered exactly who she was, long before Vivian ever learned her name. If this story stayed with you, tell us in the comments. What would you have said to Vivian if you had been standing in that ballroom when Lillian discovered what happened to her retirement money? And if you believe nobody's job, income, uniform, or social status determines their worth, share this story with someone who needs that reminder today.